Hi, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner,
and our dog, Betty White,
your hosts of the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably, but it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure, yada, yada, yada. After owning our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real-life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Jerry.
Betty White, our golden girl, is hanging here with us, and we are back for a very special episode of the Arner Adventures Podcast. What is it, Jer?
Episode number 100.
Yay! 100.
Wow.
I cannot believe it.
No, I can't either. We made it.
We made it.
Yeah.
Again, we say this all the time.
One at a time.
It is probably one of the only things that we've been consistent with in our lives.
Yeah.
Every week, haven't missed a week. I just can't believe it. 100 weeks, almost 2 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's something.
Yeah.
Beginning of 22.
Yeah. Well, if you all hear something, Betty's playing with the toy, and we're not going to stop her because she does whatever she wants to. It's Betty's world. We live in it. But we just wanted to let you know that we have some fun things to talk about today, but we're having a fun giveaway to honor this important milestone. And we want you to enter to win a fun prize, but we'll tell you what it is towards the end of the episode.
That's right.
Yeah. So
the Arner Adventures journey.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to share some things that, some of our favorite moments. We're going to share the stuff about the giveaway. We're going to celebrate. And we're also going to be talking about some of our favorite moments.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Which is many, but we're going to try to pick out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're listening to this, please do us a solid and leave us a 5-star review rating in the podcast platform that you're listening to us on. And hit that subscribe button if you're over there on YouTube. We would really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we can take it back. Take it way back.
Take it back. January 4th, 2022.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So January of 2022, we started our podcast. The first episode was why we sold everything and moved to the coast. It is still the number one top podcast episode, but we always hear that the first one usually is because it's the one that you start with. And some people like to go back to the very beginning. But honestly, I think most people were more curious about that story, about our lives than anything else. So I think it was good that we started with that one.
It was a good launching point.
Mm-hmm,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you can tell because people still watch it, but
listen to it. We didn't do
neat.
YouTube then.
They were listening to it.
Yeah.
They might have watched the thing they were listening to it on. But they were just listening to it. I do that.
Yeah.
I listen to something. I just have to stare at the device.
Okay, I don't do that. But we loved that episode. When we decided we were going to do the podcast, we dropped 3 episodes right at the beginning so that we had some buffer right there.
Uh-huh.
And also we did a sort of a virtual kickoff party because it was still COVID, know, and it was very successful. And I thought it was fun.
It was big fun.
Yeah.
It was big fun, but man, were we nervous.
We were
nervous.
We were so nervous. And I think what we'll do is talk about why we started the podcast and then talk about some of the things that we've learned along the way. Do you know why we started it?
To tell everybody why we sold everything.
Yeah, well, kind of. Well, yeah. So our blog is our blog, right? And we started our blog sort of as like a journal of what was going on in our life. And that's how our community built, because a lot of people were interested in not only the downsizing and the lifestyle changes that we made to a minimalist lifestyle, but I've probably said this before. I've talked about it live in person a lot. I don't know how much I've said it on the podcast, but the reason that we really started the blog was avoidance. When we moved and, we moved to the coast so that we could heal and work on our well-being mentally and physically, we got tired of fielding the phone calls and messages asking what's going on with you guys. When are you coming back? What are you gonna do about this? What's happened? What happened to the business? What happened to your client? All this stuff.
The knocks on the door in the late night hours. All that. It was
so invasive.
Yes.
So we decided to start the blog to just sort of journal, having no idea like how to blog, nothing. It was just like we were typing what was in our head. We have not removed those blogs, even though sometimes I want to. We have not, but that's okay.
They're a good time tracker to see where you started, the journey you've taken, how much you've grown. So they're important to keep there.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
You're so right. But we started it because we were getting a few people saying, "Oh, you should start a podcast." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that seems like a lot of work. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy, but podcast and recording and all that seems like a really daunting situation." But there were a few people who we relied on, which we're going to talk about them a little bit later, who were huge catalysts of us making sure that we just went ahead and did it and started the podcast. And we're so glad we did, because we have a sort of newer community who have found us via the podcast. A lot of them are people that have found us through guests we've had. A lot of them is just a different, if you listen to podcasts, you're a podcast person. Some people are not. So those people might just know us from the blog. But yeah, I think it's been really good to hold us accountable. I think it's been wonderful for us to meet new people that we've admired for a long time. But the initial vision behind the Arner Adventures podcast was so that we could talk about our experiences, but also so that we could showcase people who we admired their journey. And we call them a spark in our lives.
Spark in our lives. One of our catchphrases for the podcast. And we do meet some incredible people, and it's a lot of times we do Saturday morning call over coffee. Podcasts, and it's like we get these special. It's like Saturday morning with a special guest over to our house, and it's become like a favorite thing, and it's neat, because you do meet some really, really interesting people with a lot of the same alignment of values that we have, and what we apply to this podcast. So it's really cool.
I remember when we were doing the episodes, we were recording the first 3. And we were like, we really have these people we really admire and would really like them to be on the podcast. And we thought, there's just no way these people are going to say yes. Like, there's just no way. And then they said yes.
And it keeps happening.
Yeah.
We go, oh, no way.
Wait, what? Did you know you knew you were going to be on as a guest, right? But it just goes to show you that if you don't at least take the chance, then, it might not have happened. What's the hockey thing? The shots you don't take.
Oh, the Wayne Gretzky quote. Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. One of the things I love about this time of year.
What's that, Shannon?
Well, I love that I start thinking about autumn in New York and maybe traveling a little bit more around the holidays, things like that. But who wants to travel if you have to go and check your luggage and wait in lines and all that stuff with all the other holiday, this time of year travelers? Not us. We pack smart.
You don't start thinking about autumn in New York because that's a year-round thing.
That's true.
You think about it a little bit more.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true. Well, what's really great about making sure that we pack smart and don't check luggage is our base carry-on rollers. We love them so much. We travel with other people and they end up buying the base carry-on rollers.
They're spread throughout our family at this point. I think because everyone envied us.
That and also me complaining about them taking too much time because everybody checks their luggage. Are you kidding me? I went to Alaska for like 10 days and the weather was warm and hot and I did not have to check my luggage. You just have to pack smart and it's easier to do with base.
I would say so. And that's just, I've never had an easier bag that goes into the overhead, not bag, but easier suitcase that goes into the overhead compartment.
Yeah.
And I love the and I can't think of the
sport
term.
Pack.
The sport pack that I wear along with it.
There's so much innovation with Base. Like everything you can think about with travel that you would need or want, they have. We love them so much. So if you want to take advantage of $15 off of your first purchase, go to arneradventures.com/base. That's BEIS and grab that link.
It'll be a game changer.
So while there's so many things that have built camaraderie with us, like, in the past, it was burnout and having our business and compassion fatigue and I don't know, the pet loss stuff. I mean, that I always regret that we have a community off of that, but we sort of need each other. And so it's nice that when you talk to other people who have been through these things, people just want to talk about their experiences and share how we can all be beneficial to each other, I think.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, it's very helpful in so many ways, these different subjects that come through. And there's always, there's a certain amount of people who want to talk about this and then that. And they might not be able to talk about it too many places, but they find a safe place here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, I think let's talk about some of our favorite moments because I think that would be fun to think about.
Yeah. Oh, no, sure.
Do you have a favorite moment or a favorite episode?
Oh, the problem there is I like them all.
I do too.
And it tends to be little bits and pieces of things I think about that pop back into my head here and there. But there's so many moments with so many different episodes that it's really difficult to do. Because every time we do one, we go, that's the best one yet. No offense to the people before, but I mean, it always feels that way at that moment because we really do enjoy them that much. So it is tough to pick stuff out.
It is tough. I do like to sort of reflect on that those first few episodes.
Yeah.
Where we had we always have the most amazing guests. I just remember being so excited again that these people said yes, but I think I'm going to go back to Alvin Wayne. Just let me take a moment. Alvin Wayne. If you haven't heard the episode, please go back. I think he's maybe number 4. I think we did 3 episodes, and I think he was our first guest. But I discovered him on social media during COVID. He is just a huge spark in our lives. And I remember sending him the email and I didn't get a response. And I was lining other things up. And then I messaged him on Instagram. I was like, hey, I just want to make sure, like, is it no or what? And he was like, I didn't get your email. And so anyway, he ended up saying yes. And I just remember, in the beginning when we started this, we were recording it on our cell phone. Like we were putting the cell phone on a tripod and would turn on get on StreamYard, which is how we record it now. And we would just hit record and that's it. So if you listen to the first ones, the sound's not the best. I mean, we don't have some official thing set up here. Our window's open right now. The fan's on. Betty's chewing something in the background. I mean, we do what we can do, but
and it seems archaic, but it's funny to think that you came from there. You had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And it makes it seem like longer ago that we were sitting here talking into our cell phone. But
it does.
It's just within the last 2 years. Yeah.
I also loved recording an episode on the Virgin Voyages cruise ship.
Oh, yes. That was really neat.
That was the most soundproof situation we ever had in that cabin.
Yeah.
It was so soundproof.
And that was early on, and that felt really cool because we were out sailing on the deep seas.
Yep, and we were buzzed. We had some cocktails that night.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of fun. I still go back again those first few episodes. Scout Sobel.
Who's just been a really important person for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, to begin with.
Yes, just a huge advocate for mental health. She really set the bar for the other mental health conversations, I think. I mean, she's so authentic and open about her journey, having bipolar and just living life safe in your emotions. And She's an author of The Emotional Entrepreneur. She is just amazing.
Well, of all the people we've talked to, and a lot of that subject threads its way through the conversations, I think we kind of always go back to her because you had a special relationship with her. So yeah, she's kind of
she's so great. And even before we got on, my mom wanted to virtually meet her. So we got my mom in on the conversation before we hit record so my mom could talk to Scout because we both just love her so much.
Yeah, that was really neat. And then I had it's kind of neat. Might be the only person I ever knew before we interviewed him. I have a musician friend, Chuck Phillips, and we interviewed him right off the beginning. I
think he was our second guest.
After Alvin, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And that was just fun because I already knew him. He was somebody I knew before we came back here to Beaufort. And he's a really great musician and songwriter, and he loves to talk about music.
Yeah.
And we have he and I personally, when I knew him, we would just love to geek out talking about like classic rock and stuff like that and all these things. And so it was fun to try to, although a little frustrating because it's like with him, I feel like I could go on for hours. So I was trying to,
and
I was a little anxious. I was trying to squeeze it all into.
Yeah. And we were trying to figure out how to just, we didn't know much about editing. All of that. We were just like, we would just talk until we finally fizzled out.
Right.
That's why many of you didn't stick around to the end of those episodes. But it's okay. Yeah, I think, Kevin Berthia was recently.
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge episode for us. I remember getting off of that one and saying that was hands down my favorite episode. They're all our babies and they're all our favorites. So, but that one was so good.
Yeah, that was, and it is easier to remember the most recent ones. I feel like so many right in the middle somewhere are kind of escaping us right now. But
Tom Rose was a special one. He wrote a book about grief called Balloon in a Box.
That was good.
And that was like one of the first times I even processed on the podcast about losing our dog Pharrell and just how terrible that was. And but that was just a really great episode. A lot of people were interested in that one. I don't know. There's just so many.
Yeah.
What else has changed? Our this or that, our Fast Five used to be 10.
Now it's 5. Yeah.
We had to shorten it.
Yeah. We had to sort of trim the fat, so to speak, with this podcast, because we were going on longer than we like to, because we like to riff.
We do.
We like to get on something and just riff. And talk, and then we thought, we might be losing them at the end.
Yeah.
Because you want to keep them kind of short so people won't go to bed on you before you're over. So
oh my God, you know who else I just thought about?
Who's that?
Sutanya Dakers. She wrote the book, or she used to have a podcast called Dinner for One, but she wrote the book about Dinner for One. She's an American who moved to Paris. You weren't on that episode. That was a really good one because we had listened to her podcast all through COVID, and she just has the most beautiful, soothing voice.
Well, yeah, I know that was a big one for you. And of course, I always listen to them when you just do them right after you do them. And, and I did like that one.
That was a good one too.
That was good.
So we wanted to take a minute to tell you about one of our sponsors, but we love them, is Sugar Wish.
Yes, Sugar Wish has been a big part of our journey here with Arner Adventures. We love their products.
We do. What we love most is that it's a sustainable gift, right? All you need to do is send someone an email, and you pick sort of a price point with Sugar Wish, and you can, choose from, you can either choose the different categories like candy, snacks, Betty's favorite.
Betty's dog treats.
Dog treats. If you want to send a dog a special little gift, all you do is go in there and choose the category, and the recipient gets to choose whatever gift that they want. I mean, what is there not to love about that?
Well, yeah, that makes it really neat. You're getting a gift, but you're also getting choices within a broader spectrum, and you can choose your own gift. So, and I just think the feedback we always get from people who receive it is just always, wow, great. You kind of made somebody's day. So that's always fun.
Right. That's right. That's I love that it's called Sugar Wish. It's sort of appropriate. Something that we did not mention is wine. Vine Box. Underneath Sugar Wish is sort of another, it's their company. It's like another name, but if you go to the Sugar Wish website, you can definitely order it, but it's Vine Box, and you can send someone these like little tubes, and
they're like test tubes.
They are
they're
test
kind
tubes,
of fun,
but they're like a tasting of different wines. And we love it because you just pour the tube in like your glass, and it's a glass of wine.
It's like a wine flight, like you would get in a beer flight in a restaurant.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something about that. I think people love that kind of variety. Like, I get to have a taste of all those different ones.
That's right.
Exciting for lots
We've
of people.
sent them as thank you gifts. We've sent them as like housewarming gifts.
Housewarming, yeah.
People who adopt new doggies, all kinds of different things. Any holiday. And if it's last minute, that's okay because they get the email the same day that you want to send it.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
and everybody loves it.
Yeah. Well, don't miss out on the opportunity to try it out. You can save $7 off of your gift to someone. You just use the code ADVENTURE during your checkout. And for the easy way to get to it is to go to arneradventures.com/sugarwish, which is also in the show notes.
Yeah. Get ready to make someone's day with a delightful gift. Now let's dive back into the show.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could just go on and on about that. But the other thing I wish we would have done for this episode that we did not do, but we are going to do is, I guess, maybe episode, I don't know, maybe after the first 8 to 10 episodes, we started asking everybody on their 5th question, ketchup or mustard. And you seem to think that there's some kind of a thing about someone's personality with how they answer.
Yeah, well, it's just a really fun thing. Yeah. But the thing is, it's always so different. I always feel like it's so different.
Yeah.
It's never just, seldom do people just go ketchup.
And then they give us a story.
Or mustard.
Remember when Kevin Berthia said that ketchup for him was so traumatizing because he saw someone at Disney World or Disneyland or something that had drowned their food in ketchup, and he was so traumatized that he'd never eaten ketchup before in his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
And then most commonly the food it comes about, what people talk about is hot dogs. Well, I have to have it on hot,
Or some are like, I cannot have that on a hot dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that seems to be the most talked about food, although we might talk about other things too. But that's something that just goes with hot dogs. So ketchup or mustard. So it is always really fun. And we're going to take a tally at some point.
Yeah.
And figure out which one is ahead.
Sort of a Venn diagram of the combination of the two. I tell you, there hasn't been many people who align with me with the mix. Mixing the ketchup and the mustard.
But with mustard, they talk about all the different varieties a lot. With the ketchup, it's usually just ketchup.
Yeah. I don't like the varieties. I just like the yellow.
I like the yellow mustard.
We were also thinking about what has been sort of a consistent theme with everything. And when you're talking about the guests, I find that the most common advice that people give is to just start. Like whatever it is you want to do with your life, whatever it is you want to do with, I don't know, anything with changing your lifestyle or going after a goal or whatever it is just to start. I've heard that so many times from people who actually did.
And we can kind of relate that to what we were just talking about. We just started holding our phones and talking into them when we did the podcast.
You know what? That was advice from Scout Sobel. She was like, I was on this like webinar thing about podcasting before we had started it. And she said, look, if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have all the fancy stuff. Just do it. And when people ask me now about podcasting, like, just do it. Like it doesn't matter. Just do it, because people are going to appreciate that you're telling your story. It's going to provide an outlet for other people to feel comfortable. It's sort of how we talk about how we're so grateful for our guests for being so vulnerable with their discussions about mental health. I was talking to a couple people today, and we were talking about anxiety and depression and mental health and stuff. And the other person I was talking to, this is in real life, said, you just have to talk about it, because the more people you talk about it with, the more you realize that people just want to open up. They're just kind of scared to. And so I agreed. I was thinking about the podcast and how so many people just open right up to their journey. And then we get these messages about it, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that person talked about their journey with, working on themselves and, battling mental health issues and all of that. And I just love that it has become more of the general conversation of our guests and us.
I do too. Yeah, it has really threaded its way in there more and more. And it is something that everybody kind of has in common to an extent. And you're right, because of the stigma around it.
Yeah.
When you do break through that wall, everybody's like, yeah, they just want to talk about it, talk away. So it is really interesting like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing is probably advice most common is just to live authentically, just be yourself. You know, we ask the question at the end of every episode of our guests is, what does a life well lived mean to you? And I feel like a lot of people say, you know, if at the end of my life, I just lived being my true self or living authentically. I mean, I don't think we've ever had anyone say, you know, I really wish I would have, you know, bought more handbags, or I really wish, I hope at the end of my life I can say, you know, I bought all the souvenirs every time I went somewhere. I'm just really glad I did that. No, it's usually about travel. It's about living authentically. It's about making sure that they left a positive impact on the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a beautiful question. And I love the answers that we get.
I do too. Yeah. And they're kind of common, but also they're really varied too.
Yeah.
So there's
yeah,
they're really neat.
I would say another good, positive thing, wonderful thing is that the podcast has allowed us to donate and contribute to mental health advocacy groups. You know, for the past 2 Octobers, we've had some sort of a fundraising type thing. Like last year we did where we took sponsorship money, a portion of it, and donated it to mental health advocacy groups. This year it was the sale of the Thalassophile candle, which you can still, we said it was going to be for October. We kind of just extended it on. So any sales that we get from that candle, we're donating a portion of that to mental health advocacy groups. And we just couldn't do that if we didn't have the podcast. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do that. And I think this platform has allowed us to reach more and being able to help more than we ever have.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt. It's really interesting like that.
Yeah.
Well, I really like the new community we have gained through the podcasting. And it's a special, it's really neat. You kind of develop a sense of community where you live, but you also have this little alternative thing going on. And it's interesting too, because people from all over the place. So you're always meeting somebody from somewhere different and different accents and different. They have different
time zones.
Different time zones. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I think one of the other things that I was asked to share are things that I would change now or that we do differently. And we talked about a little bit of them, but you know, from a standpoint of logistics, if you're thinking of starting a podcast, of course, just do it. Who cares? Like if you do it on your phone, if you sit in your closet, I have sat in the back closet for a while sometimes and done it until we started doing video. But I would say just do it. But the other thing is, and if you're not in the podcast world, you might not even think about this, but from a scheduling standpoint, don't open your schedule completely up to when anybody can schedule, because we were doing that at the beginning and we were starting to burn out. Like we just didn't have any days on our schedule that we blocked off. We use Calendly for our guests to book. Now we only have certain openings when we know our bandwidth can handle it, when we know that only certain amounts can schedule in a day, because it just, you know, if you start having more than 3 podcast episodes on a Saturday, it's a lot. And so you don't want to have these great conversations. And like the third one, you're really not being your full self. And it's not as great of a conversation because you're really tired or whatever.
You're just drifting off.
Yeah. So I'd say if you're going to start a podcast and you want to have guests, just have designated times that your guests can schedule and that you will record those days. And maybe I know of some people who open up, you know, a couple days a month and they do podcasts all day and they can do it. I've just noticed that it's hard for us to do that. Like past 3, it's a lot.
It is. We do that with certain things where you do it in bulk.
Batches,
like batches in bulk. And, but yeah, with that, we haven't done it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good idea if you can do it.
Yeah. I'm really proud of the fact that our guests will tell us that the process of being a guest on our show is very professional. I love that. We hear that all the time, and I really am proud of that.
Yeah, it makes you feel good. Yeah, we have heard that a lot.
Yeah, I want the experience to be really good for the guests. I want them to feel like it's a safe space, like you said. I want them to feel comfortable. But we just, we just have a process. I have to have systems in place or I can't get anything done. And so those systems actually, I've learned help. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, just have a certain system and how you handle all of that. And, be prepared, have done your background, have a wonderful VA like we have with Cindy, who helps this podcast move along,
Yeah. And amongst all the other things she does too.
Oh my gosh, I know.
She does a lot.
Her episode was a good one. The interview with Cindy was a really good one.
Yeah, that was really good.
If you're thinking about hiring a virtual assistant or want to know more about being a virtual assistant, that might be a really good episode for you to listen to. Well, we should probably go ahead and get to our giveaway.
Get to the giveaway.
Yeah? Well, listen, for our 100th episode, we couldn't just not do anything, right? So we have a contest. We've partnered with Sugar Wish. Again, they were the partner for our very first kickoff and through several of our episodes. We love Sugar Wish. Betty loves Sugar Wish. But for our 100th episode, we have a contest that we're calling Drink and Tell. So we want you to spill the tea or the wine on your most memorable moment that you love on the podcast. Could be your favorite Arner Adventures podcast episode, anything that you're digging about the podcast or have, if you listen to any of the previous ones, share it on your socials. Doesn't matter which outlet, just tag us, Arner Adventures, when you share it. I think on everything we're at Arner Adventures. And we will enter you to win. We're going to randomly choose a winner on Friday, November 17th to win the Sugar Wish All Drinks package, where the winner gets to choose from the packages of wine tastings, cocktail mixers, or coffee and tea. I mean, that's amazing.
You can't go wrong, can you?
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're just listening to us for the first time, maybe this is your favorite. Who knows? Maybe just share something about it on your stories, whatever. Just
I'm looking forward to somebody coming up with something I might have forgotten about.
Oh my gosh. Me too. Betty's episode. Oh my God, that should have been the top one.
That was a lot of fun. I know. That was a lot of fun.
We get a lot of questions about Betty and how come she's not on the episodes more. Well, she's here every time, but if she wants to talk, she will. But we had an episode where we interviewed Betty and she got to tell her story of just being Betty White and living the life of a rescue and a rescue advocate.
That was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, we will link that information down in the show notes again for you. Just share it on socials. You've got until Friday, November 17th, 2023. So if you're listening to this a couple years from now, sorry. Too late. But we're looking forward to that. And, I don't know. I think we could talk about any plans or things coming up for Arner Adventures. Do you know of anything?
Well, we're going to do a little travel.
We're going to do some traveling
soon for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And that is going to be at a camping resort.
Kind of, I guess. It's a tiny cabin, which we're excited about.
Yeah, which is kind of right down our alley.
Exactly.
Betty towards Western North Carolina.
Betty's going with us. There's a vineyard nearby.
At Thanksgiving. I think it'll be the coolest thing.
I do too.
It's on a lake and close to a river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be wonderful.
That should be good fun.
We have some exciting things coming up for people who are fans of our Declutter Challenge. We have something coming up for next year that you can really take that to the next step. We have an ebook that is all about starting your blog and, learning how to monetize it, sharing your true authentic self, growing a community, all of that. We'll link that down on the show notes. There's just so many things for 2024. I'm super excited about.
An enjoyable read, that ebook.
And before we go, we want to thank you, our listeners, for sticking around. You know what? I listen to podcasts every day when I'm walking or when I'm driving. And I know the importance of time and what it takes to have someone in your ears. And so we're super appreciative that you're listening to us now, or if you've listened to us before. Just thank you so much. Our guests, I mean, again, so authentic and vulnerable, and we're appreciative of that as well. Mm-hmm. And I think we have some big thank yous to give to.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we have some pretty special. We've already mentioned one, Scout Sobel.
Scout Sobel.
Yeah.
For encouraging us to start a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Flobo Boyce. We haven't really talked about yet, but that was a lot of fun.
That was a good episode.
That was a great episode.
Flobo Boyce, honestly, you've probably seen him before. He's in some commercials.
He does a commercial for Major League Baseball.
He does.
Yeah.
He's a comedian, a stand-up comedian. He has, oh gosh, does he still have his podcast? I'll have to look into that because I thought he was retired. I mean, he might have retired one of his podcasts. He had several. But yes, he is the person that took the time, and I was like, look, I don't even know what I'm doing. We want to start this like in a month. How do we do it? And so he was a big catalyst of getting this started.
Yeah. And we went on his podcast.
That's right. We were guests of his.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Jenna Kutcher. She, if you know of her, you know her. She has a podcast called the Gold Digger Podcast, but she is a marketing guru. She plays a huge role in the Arner Adventures Podcast currently and previously. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, I would highly encourage you to seek out Jenna Kutcher, and we will link her down in the show notes as well. And, you know, I just think if you're listening to this right now, there'd be no way that this would be going if it wasn't for you all. You know?
No, you need your audience to keep it going. I mean, it's
we did mention this before, but our virtual assistant, Cindy Hernandez, we could not do this without her. Totally. We would not have been consistent with 100 episodes if it wasn't for her.
Way, yeah.
So let's make sure.
She's really been, especially on the back end of this, she's really been really, really important. So, and with everything, there's just been these steps along the way that have made it better and better, and she's helped a lot with that.
Yeah.
But yes, it's kind of funny to see where you started and where we are now.
Yeah.
And when we're at 200, we'll probably think that the stuff we're doing now is archaic.
But,
probably. But anyway, we're looking forward to the next 100.
Yeah. So let's cheers to the next 100.
To the next 100.
Cheers.
And to the 100 we've done.
And don't forget to enter the all drinks package from Sugar Wish by sharing your favorite episode, favorite moment, whatever you want. Just make sure you tag us and we'll get you in there. But thank you again for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
If this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who would benefit from anything we talked about today, or any episode, our guests, or anything, please share it with a friend. It's a great way of supporting the podcast and us, and we really appreciate it.
Another way of supporting the pod is by leaving us a 5-star review or rating on the platform you're listening to us on. Oh, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button because that also supports us. We would love that.
You can always find us, links we refer to during the show, and any of the podcast sponsors at arneradventures.com or linked here in these show notes. And until next time, enjoy that journey you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Adios.
Arrivederci.
Au revoir.
Adios.
Sayonara.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Dos Vidaniana.